Good morning, folks. Starting up kind of a long night last night. Got up in the middle of it. Little girl, puppy dog, got me up. I guess I've got her confused with the waking hours, sleeping hours I've been keeping. So she thought at midnight it was time to get up. And sometime about 2 a.m. she wanted to play. Good Lord, let me sleep. She's so powerful and so capable. I can't play with her. She needs a youngster to play with, another dog. A dog that's very energetic. Come on up here. Up. Oh, yes. Oh, there we go. Oh, yes. No more cone. And I think we're past needing it. I'm not sure. Good girl. Give me a kiss. Oh, off. Okay. She's waiting for her breakfast. I've got to let it cool down. She's had some, not dysentery, but she's had some diarrhea. 2 days. This will be the third day. Got some rice going in her. I'm going to go do some shopping and get some food for her. I made the mistake of splurging and buying a quart of this raw kefir. It says not for human consumption, may not be safe. It's for cats and dogs only. It was safe for me. It wasn't safe for her. It caused this problem. Lay down. No play. Down. What did I say? Down. Folks, I stopped last time with there was no lifetime appointment for judges. That's my reading of the Constitution. So you need to understand you've been brainwashed. I've been brainwashed. We've all been... Oh, no! Water bowl. Oh, well. We've all been brainwashed. We've all been told a bunch of friggin' lies. You need to understand the educational system, this media system, this government, the corporations, all a bunch of liars, thieves, and murderers. They got murderers working in the background all the time. They get paid big bucks. The last I heard it was $50,000 for a hit job these days. The dollar's gone down in value. It's probably now $100,000. At the time of Kennedy's assassination, it was $5,000. That's all it was. I had a fellow complain to me about that one time. But let's go and do a hit job on the Supreme Court. And I don't mean killing them. But I do mean I think every one of them deserves to be out of the Supreme Court. Every one of them is guilty of bad behavior. No, I hate doing this because there's one fellow there, and I got to make sure I don't use the word boy because people get pissed and call me a friggin' racist. He's actually decent, and I'd like to keep him there. Actually, there's two of them there. One happens to be white. Wow, imagine that. Friggin' racist jackasses. Look, if you make me president, I'll immediately declare myself the Fuhrer, okay? We'll get that right out of the way. And we're going to stop this equal opportunity bullshit, which isn't equal at all. They implement this racism in order to hurt people and divide people and to conquer people. So I say we not pay any more attention to it. We get rid of the requirements to indicate your race on any damn form. Let the employer decide what they want information of on their form. However, did you notice that they don't report races on crimes anymore? They won't do it because it's racist. It's racist to identify a man or a woman and make it easier for other people to protect themselves. You can't make it easier for everybody to protect themselves by knowing what the perpetrator looks like. You sure can't label one race evil. Oh, I forgot. The white supremacists. Those boys that attend the high mass in Latin and Catholic, those are the white supremacists, according to your friggin' FBI. Kind of idiots, kind of friggin' imbeciles are the FBI that they're trying to push that off. I am so glad they identified those boys as being the white supremacists. So that takes the heat off my ass a little bit, don't you think? No, I don't think it does. I don't think it does because I am what you might call a racer, not a racist. And what's a racer? Well, I think my people ought to survive. I think me and my kind aren't so bad that we have to be genocided, that they have to have systemic racism against us, but we've been dealing with that for decades. Ask Dr. David Duke. And there is one group of supremacists on the whole planet who are proud of their supremacism, and they're going to turn the rest of us into a bunch of slaves, which they've already done. In case you don't realize it, you are living in Slavelandia. You are in the land of the free, the home of the slave. You're brainwashed through and through. You think sending these boys off to die in a war is a good idea. Anyway, it ain't a good idea. Stop worshiping the beast system. Every one of your Supreme Court justices is guilty of bad behavior. So let's go after the one I like the best first, right? Clarence Thomas is guilty of bad behavior, maybe. I want your judgment call on this. The guilty bad behavior is that he actually was a Monsanto attorney. He represented Monsanto when they were putting through these GMOs and intellectual property, if you will, and screwing the rest of the farmers and the rest of the marketplace and defending their use of harmful chemical practices on our public and upon the world. So that's my beef with you, Justice Clarence Thomas. Otherwise, I'm so glad you're there. I really am. I hate to make you the Chief Justice because I don't want to burden you with that. I think you're in your position right now. You're in your prime. You're doing great. Alito's still there, I believe, and he's pretty good. He's all right. He's okay. But we've got, I don't know what he's done wrong, to be honest with you. You might have to dig that up. But remember, it's not a lifetime appointment. It doesn't say lifetime anywhere in the Constitution. How they pulled it out of there is like the same way they pulled out co-equal branches of government. You do that by failing to read the Constitution and letting some other jackass tell you what it says, what it means. The Constitution is so profoundly deep in wisdom. To me, it's like the third Testament. The first being the Old Testament, the second being the New Testament, the third being the Constitution, the New Testament. And in case you're wondering, we're in the Bible. Sorry, folks, but we are in the Bible. We're in Genesis. We are the great nation that was spoken of at the end of the book of Genesis. Israel was blessing his two sons who he actually adopted his own boys. And that's how you got 13 tribes in Israel, not 12. But these big box churches will tell you there were 12 boys, there were 12 tribes. Where's the tribe of Joseph? Have you ever heard of Joseph? Joseph had two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. Now, I'm going to say them in that order because I've said it the wrong way for so long. I had to call up a teacher up on Saturday and get schooled again. I appreciate him correcting me. Manasseh was the oldest boy. Ephraim was the youngest. Manasseh was given the seed blessing to become the great nation, which is America today. Notice I did not say the United States of America. We certainly aren't united, and I'm not supporting any goddamn corporation anymore. If you're going to be free men, you're going to be responsible men. And corporations, the whole purpose of a corporation is to shirk responsibility, to avoid responsibility. And our founders never would allow corporations even to do business with anyone in the States. And here we are, our government is incorporated. Your courts are incorporated. Even your Supreme Court is incorporated. There might be one court in the nation, I got a sneaking hunch, there's one in Pennsylvania that might not be incorporated. Would that make it the most powerful court in the several states? You tell me. Your Supreme Court justices may serve while in good behavior, or under good behavior. I got to pull the book out and read what that one single word was before it. But may serve while under good behavior, and the B in behavior is capitalized. So basically, that's the guideline right there. If they've got bad behavior, they gone. And I think behavior, when it's capitalized like that, means it's your private life, your public life, your entire life. There's no separation on it. Your behavior's bad in one domain, one zone, you're out. And there's no three co-equal branches of government. Read the damn document. You will find that the least powerful branch of government is the judiciary. There's a reason for that. And of course, you're going to want to say that they're co-equal because that's what you've been told by some of those jackasses, especially on talk radio. They keep repeating that stuff to help brainwash you more and gaslight your ass. You need to understand that according to the Constitution, the most powerful body of government isn't even listed. It's implied in the Second Amendment, and you have been deprived of it. It was the agency through which you had self-governance, through which we governed ourselves. But you're going to want to think the presidency, the executive branch, is the most powerful. No. Read the document, and you will see the most powerful branch is the Congress. The Congress has the power to declare war, not the president. Man, do we have that ass backwards, eh? The Congress has the purse strings. They can decide what to pay the doggone Supreme Court. The Congress has the most power. But Congress is less than 10% approval rate for the last 30, 40 years? They're horrible. Why are they horrible? Because we got away from the original structure. What was the original structure? There were no term limits on Congress. And they debated that. Our founders debated that in depth. They exhausted the debate. And they came to the conclusion that we could not have term limits because that would deprive people of their free ability to appoint their representatives. So there were no term limits on that. What the limit was, the assumption was, is it was a voluntary duty to your country. And you weren't paid. No pay, no benefits. By God, make me the Fuhrer. I will order that in a heartbeat, and I'll send all those congressmen and congresswomen home. I'll tell the states, you send me proper congressmen and proper congresswomen, and we are going to give them a simple per diem like was given at the beginning in the beginning structure. And what does that amount to? It is a per diem not to enrich them, to simply defray, meaning pay part of it, most of it, but not all of it, to defray the cost of room and board, meals and lodging while in service to the country. So we give them enough so they can get a Holiday Inn room, not a fancy room. We get them enough so they can get 3 hots and a cot, and that's it. And no benefits, no health insurance for Congress. They provide their own. And when a man or a woman runs out of money and can no longer afford to support themselves, they go home. They leave, they give up their seat in Congress, and somebody else takes their place and volunteers their time. And Congress, it was assumed, would be coming from the successful businessmen and businesswomen, the people who knew how to manage money and had success in that, because they were given the responsibility to manage our money. And that was the criteria. And I know people are going to say, you can't do that. That cuts out the poor people. Well, damn right it does. I don't want a poor man in there being tempted by the money and the graft and the corruption. And I don't want somebody who doesn't know how to manage money in there to mismanage my money. You want your money mismanaged? Look at the state of the nation today. Oh my God, you've got the best Congress money can buy. And they're all bought off by your Chi-Coms too, pretty much. Even your Supreme Court justices. Oh boy, I forgot about that. Here's my complaint with Supreme Court justices. I understand. I haven't researched it. Go do your own research. I paid dearly for my education. I don't owe you a damn thing. But my understanding is each one of our Supreme Court justices visits China each year and gives a speech, a presentation, a lecture, upon which they are paid a royalty or a stipend, a reward of $1 million or $2 million every year. So talk about the I am bought off party. They're part of the I am bought off party. And my understanding is each year they get $1 million or $2 million. And I'm just going to jokingly say, they probably get off the plane and say, hello. That's the speech. That qualifies. They're on Chinese territory. They gave their speech. They get paid their $1 million or $2 million bucks. and they're under the Chinese thumb. I think if you've taken any money from the Chi-Coms, I think you should be disbarred. Not just off the court, but disbarred. So I call upon the Supreme Court. Fess up. Confess your sins. I think they're all guilty of that one. Oh, I don't like that racist Sotomayor at all. That wise Latina. She's probably the one that leaked the abortion judgment. She's probably the one responsible for the riots and the damn near murders of other Supreme Court justices. Now, do you think that bitch should be on the Supreme Court? No, get her off the court. And then you got that other one. What's her name? The one who used to represent the government under Barack Obama. And what was her major sin? Well, aside from shoving homosexual marriage down our throats, the government shouldn't be involved in marriage, boys and girls. The government wasn't involved in marriage licenses until late in the 20th century. Marriage was done in your church before that. It was done before God before that. It came about because of Loving versus the state of Virginia, in which a black man and a white woman, or maybe it was the other way around, wanted to get married in the state of Virginia. Miscegenation was against the law. They couldn't be married in the state of Virginia. And so they went to court so they could get a special dispensation called a license. You know, what is that word? Licentiousness. You're given a license to do something that's against the law, generally. That's the general principle behind getting a license. I'm given a license so I can go break the law. They got married, and they throw things off. And we ended up with marriage licenses in which the federal government meddled, and marriage licenses in which the states started doing it and decided to make a business of it. And the business was so big, so good, they come up with a family court so they could make more money on it. And that was doing so well, they decided to come up with Child Protective Services because, my God, the biggest child trafficking organizations in the world are your child protection services in your states. And you got judges that get all kinds of money in the back door, all kinds of money in the front door from that. Each one of those corporate judges, corporate courts, they get a profit off that. Everybody is motivated by profits. So it's all corrupt through and through. Anyway, Child Protective Services in this country is not a joke. It is a serious organized crime. Remember that $1,400 stimulus check that old Biden got you a long time ago? That was symbolic. It was more than symbolic. Supposedly, $1,400 was the cost of a baby on the open market. So y'all bought the baby. They do that to you symbolically. They set us up symbolically to take us down and to make us guilty of their crimes. They do things in a really twisted way. And in case you're wondering, in the Bible there's a character named Balaam. Balaam was a kind of a prophet, priest kind of dude. He didn't work for Yahweh though. And other kings hired him to curse other peoples. And Balak, I think was his name. No, the king of whatever it was, began with a B. He hired Balaam to curse the Israelites for him. And he couldn't do it. However, Balaam did teach the sexual immorality to Israelites, resulting in the plagues. Okay, folks. Balaam today was your Walt Disney dude. That's his role. He perverted you all. He was sexually grooming us as children. When I was growing up, and we went to the drive-in, with my parents, we watched Bambi, we watched the movies, the cartoons. All that stuff is loaded and chock full of sexual imagery and sexual suggestions, perverting all of us. Walt Disney brought that to you. You ought to go after that corporation and the people responsible for that. They groomed this entire society. They had the help of some other great men, like Hugh Hefner. What did Hugh Hefner do? Hugh Hefner funded the Kinsey Report. Albert or Alfred Kinsey's research. The guy was a total pervert, and during World War II, he did some research that was not proper at all. The methodology was totally to come up with perverted ends, perverted results, and the goal was to pervert the nation. And they published that thing, and we didn't find out for decades that it was bad science. And Hugh Hefner funded that, paid for that. And that come out of the state of Indiana, and the state of Indiana doesn't owe just the nation an apology. The state of Indiana owes the world for allowing that piece of you-know-what to do what he did. They practice bad science, false science. Imagine that. Nobody had ever used science against the people. Nobody ever practiced false science. Science never lies. It's always by consensus, just like YouTube says, just like Facebook says. It's consensus. Consensus ain't science. Science is not consensus. It's not that way at all. It is constantly open to debate and challenge. Constantly open to replicate the same doggone experiments to see if they come up the same way, or maybe with a little variation to see if we can tease out what the real variables are, the real cause and effects are. And they talk about diversity. And diversity is what they did against ancient Israel to weaken it. And by the time Yeshua, who you call Jesus because you don't know any better, come around, Yeshua, the Messiah, he's only called Christ once in the Bible, I believe. Most of the time in the Bible, the real translation, it's the Messiah. I lost my train of thought. It is a beautiful Monday morning. It's rained all night. It's cloudy out there. It's kind of horrible, to be honest with you. It's been real cold. Anyway, I've got got phone calls coming in galore. Wow. Look, folks, I don't know what you need to know today, but what you need to know is that you need to turn to Yahweh. Yeah, you need to get religion, true religion, though, the faith of our fathers. Learn about the way. Those are what you call the religion that's in the Bible, and the New Testament, and the Old Testament, and the apocryphal books, and the extra biblical books. It was called the faith of our fathers. It was also referred to as the way by Yeshua himself. And the apostles referred to it as the way. They didn't refer to it as Christianity. Yeshua didn't want a religion called Christianity. He pointed you in the direction of Yahweh, his Father, and as he told us that we're drawn to him, our Father as well. And you need to understand that this stuff about Jesus loves everybody, I'm sorry, folks. I've read the Bible. How can that be true? He identified certain groups, subgroups, if you will, that are destined to be in the fire. People that cannot be saved. And yet you're running around thinking Jesus saves. Jesus can save anyone. Folks, some were begun and marked for destruction for the beginning. And some of them, that's all there's going to be. And this life is it for them. Jesus doesn't love everyone. If you look in the New Testament and read it carefully, you will see he discriminated. He made fine distinctions of judgment. And by the way, it wasn't based on race, but it was based on genetics. And as I read the Bible, the first person to identify him was a woman, was a Samaritan. And what was the history of Samaria? Samaria. The history was that when the Assyrians took out the Israelites, they brought in other populations that were not compatible to weaken They weakened the society. They left the poor people in the land, okay? And then they brought in other races, other cultures, people that worshiped other gods, so they could water down the society. And of course, by the time Yeshua the Messiah comes along, you've got the Good Samaritan. And what was the big story about the Good Samaritan? Well, the Good Samaritan was, I know you're going to hate me saying this, but he was a half-breed, okay? And there was a fellow, an Israelite, who was wounded by the roadside. And other Israelites, pure Israelites, walked past him or crossed the road to avoid him. They didn't do anything to help him. But here was this Samaritan, a good Samaritan, and Israelites would have nothing to do with Samaritans. They wouldn't eat with them. They wouldn't associate with them at all. They discriminated against them in a big way. And the Samaritan tended to the Israelites' wounds. And then he took him to an inn, and he paid for his lodging, and told the innkeeper, I'll pay you. Here's some money. When I come back, let me know what else I owe you. That was an important lesson, folks. But it's not what you think it was at all. And the first woman who identified Yeshua, I believe she was mixed as well. And yet she identifies him. And she even calls herself a dog. If you read the passage carefully, she calls herself as the equivalent of a dog, waiting for a crumb from the master's table. In other words, she has technically, literally, and poetically positioned herself at the bottom of the rung, at the bottom of the ladder, as a dog at the foot of the master's table waiting for a crumb. She's begging him for help, basically. She's recognizing who he is. That's the big deal. I mean, she's the first. We don't have her name. It's not in the Bible. Anyway, my other channel is Awakening Israel, in which I do Bible studies, and we talk about stuff like this in depth. The problem is that I got tagged on it. They don't like the truth. They didn't like something I said, and I don't remember exactly what it was. I'll have to think about it. But they were upset. I talked about Psychology 101, and the book, they removed some of the research from the early textbooks, and I bought all the Psychology 101 textbooks I could when I decided that's what I was going to become. So I had a half a dozen different textbooks. I bought every one that those teachers wanted, $50, $90. I didn't care. I bought them, and I read them. And only in one of them did they have this experiment with the planaria. And it was an experiment that I'm not going to go into depth here because YouTube apparently doesn't want you to know about it. And the psychology discipline doesn't want you to know about it either because they took it out of the damn textbooks. Anyway, we are ruled by a cruel and evil, monstrous group of bastards. And they are the offspring of the devil. They're aliens. You're alien too, in case you're wondering. We're all aliens on this particular planet right now. Anyway, the main point is we are in trouble in America. There are several paths for us to walk down at this point, including the visions of several men and women that are alive today. And the predominant visions are that Los Angeles is going to sink into the ocean. That's one of the predominant visions. Everybody's dreaming about it, and they finally decide, what city is it that we're having the same recurring dream about? And they looked up pictures of the different cities, and I got a buddy, an acquaintance in New York State. He looked it up. It's Los Angeles. And it's not just symbolic. This is a real act of Yahweh when it goes under. So that's coming, and it's going to take Hollywood with it. I always thought it was going to be New York City myself. Could be Washington, D.C., but California, real good candidate for breaking off and going into the sea. So, we've got people dreaming dreams, people making prophecies again today. Where are the miracles? Pastor Jerry Wiki was looking for those. I am too. I think it'll be a miracle if we get through this period, this critical period, without the nukes flying. Why? Because it's actually in the Bible as one of our potential futures. That's how I read it. I read it with great flexibility. When Nineveh repented, because Jonah went back there and preached as Yahweh ordered him to do, Nineveh was saved. Yahweh did not rain down holy hell upon that group. Now, when Sodom sinned, there was an argument. There's an intellectual argument with Lot. Lot was a judge working in Sodom at the time, and Lot wanted to save the place, and he was arguing with Yahweh, with God. Look, for the sake of 100 righteous men, will you spare the city? Well, they kept whittling it down. For the sake of 10 righteous men, well, the only one righteous was Lot and his family, and they got out of there. The angel showed up and says, "We're taking you now. Don't look behind." Lot's wife looked back and turned to a pillar of salt on the plain. Anyway, you read the Bible, the history's in there. That stuff's all real. That's why the evil ones do not want you to discover artifacts, don't want you to discover writings, don't want you to understand the truth at all. They have taken all the knowledge and put it down underneath the Vatican in 8 miles of library corridors underground. They've got the old books from the old worlds. The Library at Alexandria was the first false flag in history, as far as I can tell. It's pointed as the earliest one. And what they did is they made an announcement. We're going to have this beautiful library. You can put your books in our library. And then when all these people got suckered into it and put their books in the library, and books were expensive back then, you didn't have them coming off printing presses. They were all done, everything done by hand. Intensive labor. They got that library fully stocked. And then they pulled a false flag. They removed the books from the library, stole the books, and burned the building. And the people went along with it. They got suckered into it. Oh, the book's all burned up. So they made an announcement. We're going to rebuild the library. We're going to do it again. We're going to do it all over. And people brought in their books for a second time. Great men, great books. And they did it again. In case you're wondering, those books are in the basement, underground in the Vatican. Yeah, folks, they pretty much the repositories of all knowledge. And the Jesuits are the brightest on the planet. I know, I was educated by them. I see others that were educated by them, and I see some real evil people that were educated by them. And I do not think all of the Jesuits to be evil or to be bad at all. But I think maybe a small number. Look at their blood oaths, look at their history, look at how they were developed, look at their power today. Look at who they've influenced, who have been in office, who are going into office. And one of the things you need to know is that I just have a doctorate. A Jesuit is required to have 2 doctorates in 2 different disciplines. These are brainy dudes. And they live kind of high on the hog. They eat really well. They drink their heart's content, and they smoke cigarettes and do whatever the heck else they want. And I've seen some of them walking around with some of the most beautiful women, too. That confessional stuff never made sense to me. And if you go to Europe and you go into those cathedrals, my God, are they amazing. When you go into those cathedrals, you will be awed. And you have to remember that those people built those things a long time ago, before we had big cranes and all kinds of heavy machinery and all kinds of ways to build stuff. And they poured their hearts, their souls, and the money of the locals into it. So remember, the good Catholics were paying indulgences. So you wanted to go commit a sin, right? You went to the Catholics, you went to the church, went to the fathers, went to the priests, and you bought an indulgence. And that gave you a license to commit licentiousness. So, heck, now I'm going to go do what I want in violation of the Ten Commandments. Here I got my license to do it. Pastor says it's okay. I paid my fees. So when you look at those beautiful churches over there, don't think about how wonderful those people were who built that. Think of the irony of it. The fact that those were built on the sins of the people, as the priest class bilked them for all the money they could to build those things. Wow. Gives you a whole new perspective, doesn't it? So when you go and you see these beautiful government buildings and these beautiful government things, don't think about how marvelous the government is and how beautiful it is and how wonderful it is to have this stuff. Think about the enslavement of the peoples. Can you imagine how many people were given extra privileges to predate upon others? Can you imagine how many corporations were given the ability to whack their competitors, to actually literally kill the competitors, to do them out of business? So this country was built on some pretty bad stuff, it's true. So you really do need to turn to Yahweh and repent of all that stuff that's happened. You cannot fight these evil ones. You weren't designed to do it. You weren't designed to not be in a relationship with Yahweh, Creator, Father God. You were not designed that way. So what I need you to do is to buy my Bible. There's 5 formats available right now. Go to the link. There's a drop-down box on that page. Every price ends in 77 cents. I get a little credit on that. And you get the cheapest price available for that Bible. And the prices have stayed low because we want to get these out. But the Bible is not very popular right now. The only thing popular is the smooth talk and the lies from the big box churches, and you don't have to read the Bible for yourself. We have experts who will tell you what it means and throw you off. There's no way that their experts could ever understand that whole Bible. There's no way that they can give you everything that you need. As a matter of fact, if you read that Bible, that's just the first step. And then you go find somebody else who's been reading that Bible too. And you sit down and you have a discussion. That's when things open up. As Yahshua says, where 2 or more are gathered in my name, talking about his name, his word, there my spirit is. And believe me, that's when things come alive. That's why I love talking about the truth that's in the Bible. Man, I used to hang outside one of the churches in the outskirts of Fort Wayne, Indiana. We had some incredible conversations. Wow. We talked till the sunset. And of course, we were gathered together at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It was a really good time. And as we talked about what we had read in the Bible and what we thought of what we had read, we were open-minded and we heard each other. There wasn't any mocking. There wasn't any chiding. There wasn't any dominancy or attempts to dominate others. Well, for quite a while. And somebody showed up and spoiled it all. And then the competition began. But when we sat there and we brainstormed and come up with different perspectives, different ways to look at the same passages, with the different ways the Holy Spirit had illuminated each one of us. I kind of don't like using that word, illuminate. Gee, I wonder why. Anyway, we come up with some wild ideas, and we didn't always come to the actual conclusions and the understanding, but we certainly opened our minds up. We developed flexibility in our thinking, and we made better choices, and we had much better understanding. Much better understanding of what that Bible's actually saying to us. The only way to get your country back right now is to turn to Yahweh. You can get on your knees. I think that's helpful, but I really think what he wants you to do is I think he wants you to buy the best Bible in the world, my Bible. And by the way, my distant ancestor brought you the original 1611 King James Bible. That's right. That's my challenge over there. And I am privileged to be able to bring you the correction of the King James Bible. We have the corrected form of the King James Version of the Bible. It is called the proper name version of the King James Bible. And it is head and shoulders above your standard King James that you've had going on for a few centuries now. We, in this Bible, correct the errors of Ptolemy II, and we correct some other translation errors. Some words weren't interpreted properly. So it's far more accurate, far better than the King James Bible, which has the Spirit. But this Bible has the Spirit as well, and it allows you to make greater discernments. I find I do not make faulty, erroneous assumptions from this modern English version compared to the original King James Bible, which I regard as quaint and I regard as important. However, we were suppressed at the time. The publication was suppressed. There were some traps and some things thrown in there that persist to this day. This Bible that I'm bringing you corrects those. You turn to Yahweh, He turns to you. Alec de Tocqueville said that the reason America was great is because America is good. I should say the reason America was great was because America was good. Past tense. So, you want to make America great again? I say make America good again. And how do we do that? You read those 10 Commandments, you study those, you take those to heart, you abide by those, which are basically the laws of nature, as best you can. Those are the foundation for all of Western civilization. And they're going after Western civilization, in case you haven't realized. And the countries that are under attack, in case you haven't realized, are the English-speaking nations. The United States of America really should be called America, rather than a corporate entity, which they've turned it into 4 different corporations, some giant shell game that I can't figure out yet. Maybe you could figure it out. And we are Manasseh. We got the seed blessing. We are the great nation, foretold in the book of Genesis. So don't go around telling me that we're not in the Bible. Those pastors, they ought to read the doggone Bible themselves and learn what it says. You ought to get schooled from the Bible rather than the BS they teach in the seminaries. Ephraim, our younger brother, was to become a company of nations. The sun never sets on the British Empire, or what's their flag called? The something Jack, Union Jack. I'm sorry, folks, I got some problems with them because they still got their talons into us and they haven't let us go. They've been screwing with us since we began. Right at the beginning of the Treaty of Paris, that, what's his name? Ben Franklin signed. He screwed up on that one, folks. He was deceived. He had no idea what he was doing. I mean, that's the best I can say. Other than that, I have to say he sold us out, which he might have done. You tell me. You want your nation back? You want to be great again? Make America good again. Bring proper justice. Don't love everyone and everything and all that they do and accept them and fail to judge them. As it says in the New Testament, don't you know ye shall judge angels? So these people that run around saying, don't you judge me, don't you dare judge, don't judge me. Folks, they got you knocked off your rockers, because by failing to judge, you have become their prey. They have taken advantage of you. They have robbed you of everything. Don't complain to me about your money. There is no money. They stole that a long time ago. Make me president. We'll go back to silver and gold coins. I'm not even going to go for paper. The hell with that. They screwed us up so badly, I won't let the bankers pull their money magic over the decades like they did And that's what they did, because they kept changing the writing on those bills, making the important language disappear and go away. I got a book written by a great brother of mine. It's mostly a pictorial book showing you pictures of the old notes and the old bills, showing you how they changed over time so they could pull this fraud on us. I would also get rid of the income tax and get rid of all that legislation like nonprofit status. It'd be a level playing field, totally level. You're not going to have a federal government dictating to you what you can do with your property, with your business, with your enterprise. You can hire who you want. It is your property. Thomas Jefferson screwed up. He did have the opportunity to write that motto properly. In the pursuit of life, liberty, and property, or estate would be a better word. Life, liberty, and estate. Instead, they decided to put in pursuit of happiness. Why did they do that? Was Jefferson on the up and up? How screwed up was Jefferson? Why did they make that error? I think of it as a mistake in one of the greatest documents ever written. A mistake in our Declaration of Independence. It has led us astray. Folks, there's so much I want to tell you right now. The good news is you can get the Bible today and you can read it. The persecutions that are written in the Bible is coming, haven't started yet. However, we can look at it the other way, that there was a famine of the word of the Lord. Maybe we've left the famine and maybe we're starting to get into the real meat and potatoes and we have access to the real text, the real truth that's in the Bible, so that we may grow, we may understand Yahweh's name, his proper name, but be able to better abide by the first commandment and all the rest of them. I'm not too keen on what's going on in the government today. I would lock the country down in terms of the borders. Nobody goes in and nobody goes out unless we totally debrief and document the whole thing. And we might take some into protective custody until we've completed the task, especially the illegal aliens. And I think I'd put a lot of men and women to work. Why? I'd put a bounty on them. I would tell the average American man or woman who's looking for work, we're going to pay you. You get these illegals, arrest them properly, and deliver them to us so we can process them. We'll pay you. Yeah. Now, you may say that's racist or elitist or anything else. It's self-preservation, folks. We have had a Democrat Party that has altered the electorate by bringing in budding Democrat voters to throw the balance of power off. They've been doing that for decades. They've been watering us down, literally mixing us with peoples and cultures that are not compatible, and telling us we have to give equal respect to their value system and their ways. So does that mean we let those people that come from places where they used to practice cannibalism and ritual sacrifice like they did down in Mexico, do we allow them to start those old things up again? You legislate morality. Every time you legislate, you are legislating morality. There is no way to avoid that. You cannot legislate neutrality. Every time you legislate, you're legislating morality. Glade Birch said that to me. That's one of the things I learned from him, and I admire him for giving that one to me in particular. So, you've been legislating the devil's morality so long, you're blinded by it, and you can't see it. Did you know that in 1933, the North American continent, this country in particular, was dedicated to the god Moloch, and child sacrifice was made? We have it on video. It's over there on the internet. It is not a mock ceremony. I think they really did it, and they had such a good time, they repeated it 3 days later. My understanding is that the baby was a girl. I should say babies. You need to understand, America has been infiltrated by a parasite, by the devil and the devil's children. They have a job, and that's to sift you and me to see who we're loyal to. And at this point in time, we're found to be enemies of Yahweh. Read the Bible, Deuteronomy 41:32. That's where Barak is first mentioned in the Bible. Do a word study. And what does Yahweh say? He uses his Barak against his enemies, against those who hate him. Yeah, Barak. Where have I heard that before? Folks, that's all I got for you. This is number 117. We are making progress. The other channel's not available, so I'm going to preach on this one a little bit. I can't help it. But I will be reading directly from the text on the other channel. I only have half as many people subscribe to it as I have on this channel. I'm stuck at 204 subscribers here. I think YouTube has been hobbling me and putting me on the bottom rung. They don't want the truth to get out there. They want you to go to these controlled opposition jackasses that are syndicated on talk radio and the news media so that you think that you're a great American, a fine conservative. Conservative means nothing anymore, folks. It's two wings of the same dirty bird. Two wings of the same two-faced party. Both parties are one and the same, a bunch of liars and thieves. Wouldn't it be great if a politician who lied to you was jailed for a year minimum, made a felon, stripped of any and all rights because they lied to the public? Unfortunately, that would be a hostile environment, wouldn't it? Imagine if we did that with the attorneys. Man, there wouldn't be anybody free. We do need to do it with police officers and judges. If those two classes of people lie, the rest of us, our lives are dependent upon them. And with us putting that much faith in them, and they want us to protect them, these police officers want a death penalty when somebody kills them. They want us to, require the death penalty on anybody who kills a police officer. Well, I say fine. We're not going to mandate that. But we should make it available. And we are going to make it available contingent upon police officers agreeing to tell the truth. You lie in your police report. You lie when you're interacting with the public. Capital punishment. A judge lies and deprives a person of true justice. A judge lies, should be a death penalty as well. They want death penalty on dope dealers? How about upon those people that have been bringing the drugs in at a high level? How about the people that made deals with, who was it, Panama? Noriega? They were business partners, folks. And the Bushes went after their business partner. That's all that was. I think I've said too much. Probably not enough. I advocate you read your Bibles. I advocate you overthrow their yoke peacefully as best you can. You only use lethal force and self-defense, but by God, have it handy and be ready to dispense it because there's going to be a lot of need to defend yourself. This government is going to go door to door to try to collect guns, for one. This government is going to oppress us much, much more. It's going to get much worse unless we stand now. And so what are you going to do? If your neighbor, you wake up and your neighbor is being raided in the middle of the night for their guns, what are you going to do? Are you going to sit idly by? It's not my question. This question was given to me by a man who ran for governor in Arizona. Very smart guy. And he demanded to know of me, what are you going to do? Are you going to go to the aid of your fellow man? Or are you going to support the police state and just wait till it's your turn? Because it will be your turn. My buddy's answer to me and his schooling to me was, you need to get your gun out and open fire on the backside of those guys that are going after him. Folks, you need to fall together in your neighborhoods. You need to get to know each other. You need to be able to back one another up. You need to understand that you have to defend yourselves because we've been deprived of the most important, strongest branch of our government. Our militias were stronger than any of the three branches of government. Our militias were the people. And when the legislatures did not do their jobs, the militias put them in their place. If a sheriff had a problem, the militias helped the sheriff out. They followed in behind him, or they led and delivered the men or women, whatever it is, to the sheriff or to the judge. And if the sheriff was the problem, the militia took him into custody. You aren't free people, folks. You do not have self-rule if you do not have militias. All of the original 13 states, 13 colonies, it was part of their constitutions. And you had militias that were the state militias, which were under the governors, and you had militias that were private militias as well. I think those fell under the governor somewhere, but they had independence. They liked to work independently, and they were effective that way. By God, they defeated the British when they did that. Because the other treasonous, traitorous rat bastards didn't know their plans and couldn't report it to the British. We need to back each other. We need to be an armed population. You need to be a citizen in good standing and be a member of your militia. If you cannot be accepted by your militia, there's a problem with you. If you're accepted by your militia, don't you think your fellow militia members have your back? They're going to come to your aid if you need their help. If you have a problem, you can turn to them. They can take it up the chain of command to get more advice to find out what your best course of action is. You know, the militia is not a bunch of guys running off all on their own, independently. Oh, hell no. They all have authority they submit to. They have somebody to hold them in check. You don't know what to do, you report to your commander. You report to the guy over you. If he doesn't know what to do, he takes it up the chain of command. Somebody along the way is going to have some smarts, some common sense, and tell you what you ought to do. You work better that way. Oh, folks, Yahweh bless. I went in so many directions. This is just going to be giving psychology away. 117. Here on the 13th, Monday, lucky 13. 13 Israelite tribes. 13 American colonies. 13 states, non-debtor states. The number 13 is a very lucky number in the New World. Very, very important number. You need to understand that. It's not bad luck at all. Yahweh bless. Over and out.